Hello, welcome to Rockanory. I'm Zoe Howe, and today I'm going to be paying tribute to John Peel as promised. I'm a bit late for Peel night, obviously, but better late than never. And I'm also going to be paying tribute to Ari Up from the Slits, who died very sadly 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to be reading a little bit from my book, actually, Typical Girls, Story of the Slits. I wouldn't normally read from my own stuff on Rockanory, but as I say, I wanted to tie something peely with something slitsy, and so I thought I'd read a little bit from this. And this is about their early Peel sessions in the late 70s, so I hope you enjoy it. The Slits' vitality and originality was attracting attention and respect, notably from one man who would be instrumental and largely alone in championing punk on the radio, BBC radio no less. He may have played records at the wrong speed now and again, but he would also play your track twice in a row if you really liked it. He'd also include it in his Festive 50, and he'd immortalise you live in one of his already legendary sessions. Capturing the attention of John Peel was an important coup for the Slits, and they didn't do it by halves. Like the Slits, John Peel was never particularly troubled by the idea of the mainstream, and throughout his long career as a BBC legend, he remained devoted to alternative music. He was accompanied on this mission to find the new and exciting by his open-minded, good-humoured producer, John Walters, and this team was more than ready to give the Slits a push. Former hippie Peel embraced punk wholeheartedly, which prompted cynics to wonder out loud whether he was merely trying to appear edgy, particularly as he wasn't getting any younger. But Peel explained that this new explosion of music sparked feelings in his core, echoing how he reacted when he first heard rock and roll. It wasn't a deliberate kind of refusal to grow old gracefully, he said. The first records that moved me strongly were things like Little Richard and Elvis Presley records, Gene Vincent records. They were very basic and very direct. I was moved again by the idealism of the hippies, which I passionately believed in. I genuinely believed we were going to change the world and that society was going to be altered by what we did. With the new wave came a combination of these two things. It was back to basics, to very simple direct music, and at the same time they seemed to be hoping, like the hippies, that they could make some sort of changes in society that would make for a better way of life. The two things together I found very exciting. John Walters would scour the capital and its outskirts every week to go to punk gigs, searching for raw talent. It had to be Walters instead of Peel, because Peel was too recognisable, and would be immediately deluged by a mountain of cassettes from hopeful musos, and who could blame them? On August the 16th, 1977, the day that Elvis Presley died, the Slits were playing at the Vortex. Peel had already expressed in his Sounds column that year how his heart was heavy, he hadn't seen them yet, and he was already determined to get them in for a session, so Walters sneaked Peel down to the show. The Ready for Anything producer knew they would be in for quite a night of it when they sought out the Slits, particularly as their live sets were becoming legendary. Walters was not on top form when he first saw the Slits, but he could see why Peel was so excited by them. He told Melody Maker the following year, "We'd just done a recording and I was a bit smashed by then. But I thought, this is a girls' clash, and not only that, there are about 8 of them, most unusual." That was a joke, by the way. John Peel added, "Technically, they were all over the place. I thought, if we get them in, is it only because they're women, or what? But we got them in to do a session, feeling there was something there which could be good." Peel's first meeting with Slits drummer Palmolive was typically memorable, at least according to the DJ's book Margrave of the Marshes, which was completed after his death. Palmolive greeted John Peel in the Vortex Club by banging his head against the head of the man with whom, until that moment, he'd been engaged in polite conversation. John reported, "Being a well-bred gent, I merely smiled and continued my conversation. Come to think of it, we're shortly to record these Slits for Radio 1. I think I'll take several of my friends and lie in wait for the brazen creature outside the studio." The Slits' pre-cut Peel sessions in 1977 and 78 were often remembered as favourites of Peel's. At the very least, they didn't behave like their mates The Clash, who in the broadcaster's words, did half a session and then wandered off, unbearably pretentious. They said the studios weren't good enough. Not a very punk attitude. Joe Strummer added a final up yours to this by saying that listening to John Peel was like a dog being sick in your face. Well, it was that or maintain a dignified silence, which was also not very punk. Anyway, back to the Slits and Peel. The beloved broadcaster adored them, but as Ari Up has pointed out, he rather unhelpfully paid them the backhanded compliment that his favourite thing about the band was their inability to play coupled with their absolute determination to play. An affectionate dig that, as an obvious result of his influence, entered the public consciousness and has dogged the band to this day. As a matter of fact, anyone who's heard those sessions will know that not only can the band play just fine, they're truly exciting, interesting recordings, even by today's standards. From the strident backing vocals of FM underneath the sound of a radio being tuned, to the cacophony of squeals, gasps and purrs in Love and Romance, to the mature, funk-driven beauty and sparkling energy of their later sessions for Peel in 1981. Ari Up. When people said we couldn't play in the early days, when we had that raw, punky sound with the heavy bass, if you listen back to those Peel sessions now, you can tell that's rubbish. We obviously could play. Now when boys try to play Slits stuff, they get confused with the feeling and emotions of it, because our musical approach is spontaneous and emotional. It's not as mathematical as the boys' stuff. It's more wavy, like an ocean wave, in and out, and weird chords, of course. At the time we made song structures that no one could really fathom. They hadn't been put into the world. The first Peel session with the group was recorded on September the 19th, 1977 at Maida Vale Studios, and they hurtled through Love and Romance, a reverb-soaked version of the exhilarating and venomous Vindictive, a brooding bass-heavy Newtown, and a fearsome yet profanity-free, radio-friendly rendition of Shoplifting. It hit the airwaves 8 days later. Viv Albertine. That was the first time we'd been in a studio. Lots of people thought the result was better than the album cut. Vindictive is not on any LP, and Newtown was very different when re-recorded. It was also the only recording we made with Palmolive as an all-girl band. The energy and the aggression and the speed, I can't even believe I ever felt like that. Who is that girl? And have you ever heard a girl like that since? Peel was hooked, proclaiming the session as just magical. Even NME, who had previously branded the Slits puerile, duly noted that their sessions for Peel boasted a riveting maverick form and momentum. And as Peel said in an interview at the time, in the end, they did what is genuinely one of our first classic sessions. I'm going to leave it there, but that was from Typical Girls, ? The story of the Slits, and as always there's a link underneath the video so you can find that book online if you wish, and as I say, that was in tribute to John Peel and Ari Up, so I hope you enjoyed it and stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.